First Contact Protocol Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Earth vessel Prometheus, watching the most magnificent structure she had ever seen slowly rotate before them. The Galactic Assembly Station stretched across space, like a metallic flower, its countless petals housing different atmospheric environments for thousands of alien species. After 2 centuries of reaching toward the stars, humanity had finally been invited to join the greatest civilization in the galaxy. "Elena, you need to see this," called Dr. Marcus Chen from his workstation. The xenobiologist's voice carried a mixture of excitement and concern that made Elena's stomach tighten. She walked over to where Marcus was studying streams of data, flowing across multiple screens. "What am I looking at?" Elena asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. Marcus pointed to a series of graphs showing technological advancement over time. "I've been analyzing the data they sent us about member species. Look at this pattern." The graphs showed rapid technological growth for each species, followed by a plateau that lasted for thousands of years. Every single civilization reaches a certain point and then stops. Commander David Torres joined them, his military bearing evident even in the casual environment of the ship. "Stops how?" "No new innovations, no scientific breakthroughs, no cultural evolution," Marcus explained. "It's like they all hit a wall and decided to stay there. The youngest member species has been technologically stagnant for over 3,000 years. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Maybe they reached perfection? Or maybe they gave up trying," Marcus replied quietly. An alert chimed throughout the ship, and Elena's communication officer announced, "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the assembly station. They're ready for us." The docking bay of the assembly station was larger than most Earth cities. As Elena led her small delegation down the ramp of their shuttle, she was struck by the incredible diversity of life forms moving through the vast space. Beings of crystalline structure floated alongside creatures that looked like walking trees. Some aliens wore environmental suits while others seemed to thrive in the station's carefully controlled atmosphere. "Welcome, humans of Earth," came a voice that seemed to speak directly into their minds. Elena turned to see their greeter approaching, a tall, elegant being with reptilian features and scales that shifted color as it moved. "I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Saurian hegemony. I will guide you through the integration process." Elena extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting, then quickly realized the mistake when Kethvar stared at her outstretched palm with what might have been confusion. "Thank you, Ambassador. I'm Captain Elena Vasquez, representing Earth." Kethvar's scales shifted to a warmer gold color, which Elena hoped was positive. "Your species shows interesting behavioral patterns. Most new applicants research our customs extensively before arrival." "We prefer to learn through experience," Elena replied, choosing her words carefully. They were led through corridors that seemed to stretch forever, past viewing windows that showed impossible vistas of space and architectural marvels that defied understanding. Finally, they arrived at a chamber so vast that Elena couldn't see the ceiling. "The assembly chamber," Kethvar announced, "where all major decisions are made." The chamber contained thousands of beings, arranged in a complex pattern that Elena assumed represented some form of hierarchy. At the center, a pillar of pure energy pulsed with soft light, and from it came a voice that resonated through the entire space. "Humans of Earth, I am High Counselor Zafira, Speaker for the Galactic Assembly. You have requested membership in our civilization. This is a privilege that must be earned." Elena stepped forward, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. "We're honored by the opportunity, High Counselor. Humanity is eager to contribute to galactic civilization." A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the assembled beings. "Contribute?" Zephyra's voice carried a note of gentle condescension. "Young species, you must first demonstrate that you can follow our established protocols. The integration process has been perfected over millions of years." Marcus whispered to Elena, "That's what I was afraid of." The testing began immediately. Elena and her team were presented with a series of challenges designed to evaluate their species' readiness for galactic citizenship. The problems were complex, requiring advanced understanding of physics, biology, and social dynamics. What troubled Elena was that every challenge seemed to have a correct answer, a single solution that had been predetermined by the assembly. When she suggested alternative approaches, the alien observers would politely but firmly redirect her to the established method. But what if we approach this differently? Elena asked during a diplomatic simulation. The scenario involved a trade dispute between two species, and the recommended solution was a complex arbitration process that would take decades to complete. The Galactic Assembly has handled such disputes for millennia, explained the examiner, a being that looked like a cross between an octopus and a tree. The established protocols ensure stability. But look, Elena said, pulling up a holographic display. If we examine the root cause of their dispute, competition for rare minerals, we could establish a resource-sharing agreement that benefits both species. The dispute disappears entirely. The examiner's tentacles writhed in what Elena was learning to recognize as distress. That is unconventional. It has not been tried before. Maybe it should be. Meanwhile, Marcus was having his own revelations. During a biological assessment, he was shown samples of alien DNA and asked to identify patterns. The test was designed to measure scientific capability, but what Marcus discovered was more disturbing than any challenge. These genetic patterns, he told Elena during a break, they show signs of deliberate stagnation, not natural evolution but artificial maintenance of the status quo. David Torres had been observing the military exercises, and his report was equally concerning. Their combat strategies are thousands of years old, he said. Effective but completely predictable. They've stopped adapting, stopped improving. Elena began to see the pattern. The Galactic Assembly wasn't just technologically stagnant, it was culturally and intellectually stagnant. They had created a perfect system for maintaining order, but had lost the ability to grow. The breakthrough came during the final challenge. Elena and her team were presented with a scenario that the Assembly called the Ancient Problem, a crisis that had plagued galactic civilization for over 1,000 years. Star systems throughout the galaxy are losing energy, Zephyra explained. Not through any natural process we understand. The effect is slow but steady, and it's accelerating. Our greatest minds have worked on this problem for generations. Holographic displays showed the affected systems, each one slowly dimming as an unknown force drained their energy. The Assembly had tried everything: massive shield generators, energy restoration technologies, even relocating entire populations away from affected areas. Every solution we've attempted has failed, Zephyra continued. We believe this may be the greatest challenge our civilization has ever faced. Elena studied the data, her mind racing. Something about the pattern felt familiar, but she couldn't quite place it. Marcus was examining biological readings from the affected systems, his expression growing more intense by the minute. Elena, Marcus said quietly, I think I know what this is. She moved closer to his workstation where he was comparing energy drain patterns with biological growth models. It's not a force or a weapon, Marcus explained. It's alive. The alien observers around them went silent. Zephyra's energy form pulsed with what might have been surprise. Alive? Impossible. We have scanned these systems thoroughly. There is no life form capable of such consumption. That's because you've been looking for life as you understand it, Marcus said, his excitement growing. But what if it's something completely different? Look at these patterns. They match the growth behavior of colonial organisms. This isn't one entity draining energy. It's billions of microscopic organisms working together. Elena felt pieces clicking into place. A collective organism that feeds on stellar energy. It's not malicious. It's just feeding. But how can we stop it? Asked Kethvar, his scales shifting to worried colors. Don't stop it, Elena said, the solution crystallizing in her mind. We communicate with it. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. The idea was so foreign to the Assembly's way of thinking that many beings seemed unable to process it. They had spent 1,000 years trying to fight or contain the phenomenon, never considering that it might be intelligent. Communication? Zephyra's voice carried skepticism. Even if this organism exists as you describe, how could we possibly communicate with something so alien? Elena smiled, feeling more confident than she had since arriving at the station. The same way we're communicating now, by finding common ground. Every intelligence seeks to survive and thrive. If we can show this organism that cooperation serves its interests better than consumption, we might find a solution that benefits everyone. A young alien technician near the back of the chamber stepped forward. Elena recognized her as one of the beings who had been watching the human delegation with particular interest. She was small, with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shimmer with internal light. "My name is Yila," the young alien said, her voice trembling with nervousness. "I've been studying human methods since you arrived. What Captain Vasquez suggests. It's not how we've always done things, but maybe that's why it might work." Zephyra's energy form focused on Yila, with what Elena sensed was disapproval. "Technician, Yila, you are not authorized to speak in the assembly chamber." "But maybe she should be," Elena said, stepping forward. "How many voices in this chamber represent the older generation? How many represent those who might think differently?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Elena realized she was at a crossroads. She could back down and follow the established protocols, or she could push forward with the truth that was becoming clearer every moment. "High Counselor, with respect, I think humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization isn't our technology or our military might. It's our perspective. We're young, we're chaotic, and we haven't learned yet that some problems are unsolvable." She gestured to the data showing the energy drain. "You've been fighting this problem for 1,000 years with the same approaches, the same thinking. Maybe it's time to try something completely different." Elena could sense the tension in the chamber. Some beings seemed intrigued by her words, while others appeared offended by the suggestion that their methods might be flawed. But she also noticed something else. Younger aliens throughout the chamber were paying attention with an intensity that their elders didn't seem to share. "What exactly are you proposing?" Zephyra asked finally. "Let us try," Elena said simply. "Give humanity a chance to approach this problem our way. If we fail, you've lost nothing, but if we succeed, you succeed where the greatest civilizations in the galaxy have failed." Kethvar finished, his scales cycling through colors Elena couldn't interpret. Elena nodded. "It's possible, but more importantly, we might show the galaxy that there's still room to grow, still new ways to think about old problems." Zephyra's energy form pulsed rhythmically, and Elena realized the High Counselor was considering the proposal. Around the chamber, conversations broke out in dozens of languages and communication methods. The assembly was truly divided for the first time in millennia. Finally, Zephyra spoke. "Very well, humans of Earth, you will have your chance. But understand, if you fail, if your methods prove as ineffective as you claim ours have been, humanity's application for membership will be denied permanently." Elena felt the weight of her species' future settling on her shoulders. "We understand, High Counselor. We won't let you down." As the session ended and the beings began to disperse, Elena noticed that Yila and several other young aliens were moving toward her group. For the first time since arriving at the station, Elena felt a spark of hope. Maybe humanity's real contribution wouldn't be solving an ancient problem, but teaching an ancient civilization that it was never too late to learn something new. The human solution. The research facility assigned to Elena's team was located in a quiet section of the assembly station, far from the main governmental chambers. It was clearly designed for routine work, not the revolutionary approach Elena had in mind. She stood before a massive holographic display showing the affected star systems, their light slowly dimming as the mysterious organism continued its consumption. "All right, team," Elena said, addressing not just her human colleagues but also the small group of young aliens who had volunteered to help. "Let's start with what we know." Yila activated her workstation, her forearms moving with practiced efficiency. The energy drain began approximately 1,247 years ago in the Outer Rim territories. It has spread to 847 star systems, with the rate of expansion increasing by 3.2% annually. Dr. Marcus Chen nodded as he studied biological data. The pattern suggests a growth phase rather than aggressive expansion. If this is truly a living organism, it's behaving like any successful species, growing until it reaches environmental limits. Environmental limits, Elena repeated thoughtfully. What would limit a stellar energy consumer? A young crystalline being named Nexus chimed in, his body resonating with harmonic tones. The assembly has always assumed the limit would be the total energy available in the galaxy. But what if the limit is something else? Commander David Torres was analyzing the military response data. Every time the assembly tried to contain the expansion, they used energy barriers and force fields. Look at this. The organism actually feeds more aggressively when confronted with energy-based resistance. Elena felt excitement building. It's defensive behavior. When threatened, it consumes more energy to protect itself. We've been making the problem worse by fighting it. Dr. Chen pulled up microscopic analysis of space dust from affected systems. I've been studying these particles. They're not random debris. They're organized, structured. Elena, I think we're looking at the equivalent of cells or spores. Can you establish a communication matrix? Asked a young insectoid engineer named Clicks, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic data. If these are biological units, they might respond to biochemical signals. Elena looked around at the diverse group of beings working together, their different perspectives combining to create insights that none of them could have achieved alone. This was what the assembly had been missing, not just technological solutions but collaborative thinking across species lines. Let's try a different approach, Elena said. Instead of sending signals to communicate, let's try to understand how it already communicates. Marcus began analyzing the energy patterns in detail. Look at this, the consumption isn't random. There are rhythms, patterns, almost like language, Elena finished. It's not just feeding, it's processing information. The breakthrough came when Yila made a connection that the older generation of aliens had missed. Captain Vasquez, what if the organism isn't just consuming energy? What if it's trying to understand the civilizations it encounters? Elena felt the pieces clicking together. A galactic-scale intelligence studying stellar energy patterns to learn about the species that create them. The more advanced the technology, the more distinctive the energy signature. That's why it's been getting more aggressive, Marcus added. As galactic civilization has grown more complex, the organism has needed to consume more energy to analyze and understand what it's encountering. Commander Torres nodded grimly. And the assembly's response, massive energy barriers and weapons, made it think it was under attack. Elena turned to the communication console. Yila, can you help me set up a direct link to the High Counselor? I think it's time to propose our solution. Within an hour, Elena found herself back in the assembly chamber, facing not just Zephyra, but the full governing council. The atmosphere was tense. News of the human team's collaboration with young aliens had spread throughout the station, and many of the older representatives were displeased. High Counselor, Elena began, we believe we've identified the nature of the energy drain phenomenon. It's not a threat to be contained, it's an intelligence trying to understand us. Zephyra's energy form pulsed with skepticism. You claim this organism is attempting communication? Our analysts have found no evidence of intelligence. Because you've been looking for intelligence like your own, Marcus said, stepping forward. This organism communicates through energy manipulation on a stellar scale. It's been trying to engage with galactic civilization for over 1,000 years. But every attempt has been interpreted as an attack. An elderly reptilian counselor raised his clawed hand. Even if this theory is correct, how do you propose to communicate with something so vast and alien? Elena smiled, feeling the confidence that came with knowing they were on the right path. The same way any intelligence establishes first contact, through mathematics and physics. Universal constants that any intelligence would recognize. She activated the holographic display, showing a pattern of energy pulses. We propose sending a structured energy signal that demonstrates mathematical relationships, prime numbers, the golden ratio, basic physical constants. If this organism is intelligent, it will recognize these as artificial constructs rather than natural phenomena. And if it doesn't respond? Asked Kethvar, his scales shifting to cautious colors. Then we try again with different approaches, Elena replied. But based on our analysis, we believe it will respond. More than respond, we think it will be excited to finally make contact. Zephyra's energy form dimmed, which Elena had learned indicated deep thought. This approach is unlike anything we have attempted before. The risk of failure is significant. High Counselor, came a voice from the chamber floor. Elena turned to see Yila standing among the observers, her courage clearly overwhelming her. Fear. The young representatives of many species have been discussing the human approach. We believe it offers hope where traditional methods have failed. A murmur of disapproval rippled through the older representatives, but Elena noticed that many of the younger aliens were standing in support of Yila's statement. The assembly was witnessing something unprecedented, a generational divide that challenged the established order. The wisdom of age has guided our civilization for millions of years, Zephyra said firmly. Youth may offer energy and enthusiasm, but experience provides caution and judgment. Elena stepped forward, knowing this was the crucial moment. High Counselor, with the greatest respect, what has the wisdom of age achieved in solving this problem? 1,000 years of the same approaches, the same thinking, the same failures. Maybe it's time to combine the wisdom of age with the innovation of youth. She gestured to the diverse group of young aliens who had helped with the research. These beings represent the future of galactic civilization. They've shown more insight and creativity in the past few days than your established protocols have produced in centuries. Maybe the question isn't whether humanity deserves membership in the Assembly, but whether the Assembly deserves to represent the galaxy's future. The chamber fell silent. Elena realized she had probably just ended humanity's chances of joining galactic civilization, but she felt a strange sense of peace. Some truths were worth speaking, regardless of the consequences. Zephyra's energy form pulsed rhythmically for several long minutes before she spoke. Captain Vasquez, you have presented ideas that challenge the foundation of our social order. Such challenges are not made lightly. Elena nodded, accepting whatever judgment was coming. Therefore, Zephyra continued, we will test your theories under controlled conditions. If your communication attempt succeeds, we will consider not only humanity's membership but also reforms to our decision-making processes. Elena felt her heart racing. Thank you, High Counselor. We won't disappoint you. The communication attempt was scheduled for the following day, giving Elena's team time to prepare their signal and coordinate with the Assembly's most advanced communication equipment. The energy required would be enormous, equivalent to the power output of a small star. As Elena worked through the night with her hybrid team of humans and young aliens, she reflected on how much had changed since their arrival. They had come seeking membership in an ancient civilization, but had instead become catalysts for the civilization's first major evolution in millennia. Elena, Marcus called from his station. The signal is ready. Mathematical constants, physical laws, and a pattern that should indicate artificial intelligence. Commander Torres nodded from his position at the tactical station. All defensive systems are offline. If this organism is hostile, we're completely vulnerable. It's not hostile, Elena said with conviction. It's just been misunderstood. Yila approached with a concerned expression. Captain, what if the older generation is right? What if we're making a mistake that could endanger the entire galaxy? Elena placed a reassuring hand on Yila's shoulder. Then we'll face the consequences, together. But I believe we're about to witness something wonderful. The first true communication between galactic civilization and a form of life we never imagined possible. The signal was transmitted from the Assembly Station's most powerful communication array directed toward the nearest affected star system. The mathematical patterns pulsed through space at the speed of light, carrying with them the hopes of species that had spent generations trying to solve an impossible problem. For hours, they waited. The chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all watching the displays for any sign of response. Elena found herself holding her breath, aware that the future of not just humanity, but the entire galactic civilization might depend on the next few minutes. Then it happened. The affected star system began to pulse with energy patterns that matched their signal exactly, but it didn't stop there. The patterns became more complex, incorporating mathematical relationships that demonstrated understanding and intelligence beyond anything they had expected. "High Counselor," Elena announced, her voice filled with wonder, "we're receiving a response." The entity's communication was unlike anything the Assembly had ever encountered. It spoke through stellar manipulation, using the energy of entire star systems to convey concepts that spanned millions of years and light years of space. It was ancient beyond measure, had been wandering the galaxy for eons, studying the brief flickers of life that arose on countless worlds. When it encountered the complex energy patterns of galactic civilization, it had been fascinated. But every attempt to make contact had been met with hostility, forcing it to withdraw and observe from a distance. The energy consumption was its way of studying these civilizations more closely, never understanding that it was harming the very beings it sought to comprehend. The communication lasted for hours, with Elena's team serving as interpreters between the cosmic entity and the assembled representatives. They learned that the organism had encountered thousands of civilizations throughout the galaxy's history, each one following similar patterns: rapid technological growth followed by stagnation and eventual decline. "It says," Elena translated, her voice filled with awe, "that we are the first species to approach it with curiosity rather than fear, the first to seek understanding rather than destruction." Zephyra's energy form pulsed with what Elena now recognized as excitement. "What does it want from us?" The answer came through a complex pattern of stellar pulses that Elena struggled to interpret. "It offers partnership. It can help stabilize dying stars, provide energy for exploration, share knowledge of civilizations that existed before our galaxy was formed. But it wants something in return." "What?" asked Kethvar, his scales cycling through nervous colors. Elena smiled as she understood the entity's final message. "It wants teachers. It's learned everything it can from observation, but it wants to understand what it means to grow, to change, to evolve. It sees in galactic civilization, especially in the younger generations, something it has never encountered before." "What's that?" Zephyra asked. "Hope," Elena replied. "The willingness to try new things, to risk failure in pursuit of growth. It wants to learn how to be more than it is." The implications were staggering. The galaxy's greatest crisis had become its greatest opportunity. The cosmic entity offered not just a solution to the energy drain, but a partnership that could revolutionize galactic civilization. In exchange, it asked only for the chance to learn alongside the galaxy's inhabitants. As the communication session ended, Elena found herself surrounded by beings from hundreds of species, all eager to understand what had just transpired. But it was Zephyra who approached her first. "Captain Vasquez," the High Counselor said, "humanity's application for membership in the Galactic Assembly is approved. But more than that, we would like to offer you a position on the Council of Elders." Elena shook her head gently. "Thank you, High Counselor, but I think you're missing the point. The future of galactic civilization doesn't belong to the old or the young exclusively. It belongs to everyone working together. Maybe it's time to create a new kind of council, one that includes voices from every generation." Zephyra's energy form pulsed with what Elena had learned to recognize as laughter. "Once again, you challenge our established ways. Very well. We will establish a new governing body, the Council of Perspectives, with representatives from every generation and every species." As Elena looked around at the diverse assembly of beings, she realized that humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't their technology or their military prowess. It was their refusal to accept that things had to remain the same just because they had always been that way. The cosmic entity had been seeking teachers, and it had found them, not just in humanity, but in the young voices of every species that had been waiting for permission to speak. The galaxy was about to enter a new age of exploration and growth, guided by the wisdom of experience and the innovation of youth working together. Elena smiled as she watched Yila and the other young technicians excitedly discussing plans for the new partnership. The future of galactic civilization was in good hands, all of them,